Are you guys ready?
Hold on.
All right.
Jack's muted.
It's all right. I've done it.
Oh, Jack.
Am I muted?
No.
You are unmuted, but I wanted to just first of all say a very, very special hello and thank you, Jack, for doing this on such short notice. You are, when your name pops up, people listen, and it's just such a blessing that you emailed me and you wrote that post. I wanted to briefly talk about that post, but I wanted to, before we talk about that post, tell you that the biggest thing I got from that post was how you convey love. Like whatever the post was about is what it was about. Whoever it was, it doesn't matter. But the message that you sent and the comments that were written afterwards just showed the compassion and the love that you have, not only for sharing, but for others. And so I wanted to, from the bottom of my heart, say that first. And thank you so much, Jack, for writing that and sharing that in our group.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And if we can go one or two ways. If you want to, if it's still pertinent or important to talk about that post, we can. If not, my second question would be, which that post prompted, is how do we know that we're following a teacher in the principles that's worthwhile to listen to or follow in the first place? That's something that I've always been curious about. Maybe you can shed light on that. You can take it from there however you want.
Well, first of all, hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us here. I mean, obviously, that post struck a chord because there was so many beautiful comments about it. And so I guess it was something that needed to be said. And I want to give people the opportunity to talk about that or ask any questions that they want about it during this time. So the only thing I want to say about it up front is that it was not really directed to any one person. It's a general thing about who we are as a community and who we are as Three Principles people, I guess you could say, you know, and what we end up presenting to the world. So the specific example I gave just happened to trigger it for me, but it's not directed to that person. So if we want to start with anybody who has any questions about that or comments about that, that would be great. How do people work the comments, Amir? Do they signal you? How do you want to tell people to do it?
Yeah, I can. They'll be able to raise their hands, and I have my helper that also, Sarah. If anyone wants to start, is there anyone that wants to ask them?
Best thing is to use the raise hand or just unmute yourself and jump in quick. The raise hand's available in the participants thingy if you've not done it before. It just means you pop up to the top of the screen. It's easy to tell you want to ask a question.
Well, I hope some people have come to ask questions and make comments, because I didn't come prepared to say anything.
And I'll go first to my original question. Is, you know, with all the teachers and so many newcomers and as you called the old guards and so much information now in regards to the principles, sometimes it can be difficult to navigate. So my question to you is, how would you see which direction to go in regards to a teacher, to someone to look up to the books? How would you distinguish if we're going in the right direction, looking for this?
Okay, well, the first thing I want to say is you don't want to look up to anybody. Who gives you a good feeling? That's really the question. Who do you get a good feeling from? Who do you resonate with? Because all these teachers, you know, we all say things in different ways, and some ways are going to resonate with some people more than others, and other ways that other people say things are going to resonate, you know, to other people. And it's all a very beautiful thing. There's no one way to articulate the principles, thankfully, and the way people do it really needs to be based on what they see for themselves and what insights the teachers have had for themselves. And that's what people convey in teaching. And so if it resonates with you, beautiful. If you get a good feeling from the person, beautiful. I think that's the main things about how you can tell. Were you looking for something else other than that? I'm here.
No, that actually, it's one of those things in the community, you know, we know that. I do, at least a lot of times, and then I get to, surely it must be more. And then it goes back to the simplicity of this stuff. It's, you know, the simplicity sometimes seems too simple, and you just brought it back to what it's all about. So no, that answered it perfectly.
Well, just to say something about the simplicity, I've gotten to the point, and you know, certainly a lot of people have heard me say this at some time recently, is that I see like that what the three principles are giving us are two basic messages. And one of them is creation of illusion, and the other is essence and oneness. Now, that's simplicity. But when you start going into what really does creation mean, for example, what really are we talking about when we're talking about creation here? What is illusion really? Why does illusion look like reality? You know, you start getting into the depth within the simplicity, that there's no limit to the depth. So to me, the simpler it is, the better. And yet there's no limit to the depth of it.
I'll ask one more follow-up question then to that, and then sorry I'm hogging this up, but
No, that's good. Somebody's got to do it.
so you just explained simplicity beautifully. My question is then, how do we know when we're going in the wrong direction? Is it when it starts to look complicated? Is it when it starts to not make sense? Is it, and if we are going in the wrong direction, what is there to do about it? If that even is possible.
Yeah, well, the word wrong is a little strange to me. So I'm not really sure that there's a right direction and a wrong direction. I am pretty clear that there's the truth of the way things are, whether we know about it or not. I mean, like the universe operates in one way, whether we know about it or not. So that's what truth is with a capital T. And then various people have gotten glimpses of that for themselves, and they teach from those glimpses. So I know that if the feeling that we have when we're attempting to learn it gets off base, you could say. Like, for example, if people go into their intellect, the feeling is going to drop. And that's how you can tell that things are a little off base at that time. You know, when we are like really aligned with truth, we get an incredible feeling. And when we are aligned with ego, you know, our feeling drops. And that's what could be our guide.
Beautiful. Thank you for that. And we have a couple raised hands. So I think Phil has a question.
Yeah. Hi, Jack.
Hi, Phil.
Yeah. Well, I actually got two questions because I got a follow-up question that's just occurred to me off the back of what you were just talking about. I've become a little bit more cautious actually recently about talking about truth. And so I seem to have a problem with my setup with video being out of sync. So you can just choose not to look at me and just listen, perhaps. But anyway, yeah, I've become a little bit more cautious because what occurred to me is whilst we can, I think we all recognize a feeling, a real deep inner feeling of when something feels true.
Mm-hmm.
But I've started to wonder, can we ever really know? Like I imagine that it's possible that we arrive on the other side and even what we thought was true here just turns out also to have been part of an illusion, right?
Beautiful. The thing about truth that we can never know it because we are in form and truth is formless. And as soon as so that's one thing, like we get what we see as truth, but the operative word is see, you know, what we see as truth. So that's automatically one step removed from truth.
Right.
And then there's attempting to articulate the truth with words or pictures or whatever we've got to articulate the truth. So it's already, that drops another notch.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and so we're doing the best we can with what we've got.
Yes.
And
I appreciate it's kind of a bit of a rabbit hole, isn't it? Because, you know, I do see people, and I've done this as well. I'm, you know, making claims. For example, consciousness is this or is that, and I just think that in it, even of itself is dangerous without qualification. In the qualification being, well, this is how I see it. I mean, I'm never going to argue with somebody over what is and what isn't consciousness because I just don't think that we can ever really know.
I think that's very wise, Phil.
Yeah.
That's very wise.
Thank you. So my original question actually is there's not a specific question as such other than kind of can you speak to? And it's really around, this is one of those asking for a friend in air quotes. It's really around like attraction and chemistry with someone. Because whilst, I mean, I've been around the principles for a long time, and I don't know whether this is just a blind spot in my understanding or whatever, but in most aspects of how I'm experiencing life, I feel, yeah, I can, in the quieter moments, relate that experience to the principles. However, what fascinates me is that it looks to me that whilst if I look at the simplicity of the principles, I'm capable of feeling attraction, I'm capable of having that feeling of chemistry with anyone. Yet it just seems to be something that I have very little control over. Mm-hmm. And I wonder whether you could speak to that.
Control over attraction?
Yeah, whatever we want to call it, attraction, chemistry, being with somebody, you think, oh, there's that, that feeling perhaps of being in love. But to me, I can relate that. So to the principles, but really, and I get that even that feeling of attraction, what might feel like chemistry, I'm creating that internally. But it looks to me that that's being triggered by what I'm seeing in the other person.
Okay. Well, first of all, you're asking the right guy, because anybody who's read Seduced by Consciousness knows that I have a blind spot about relationships. So so first let me say, I don't know what I'm talking about this. Don't listen to me. It seems to me that when we get a pure hit from someone, like attraction or chemistry, there's something going on there that bypasses our typical thinking and just comes. So I want to clear up something about creation here. Creation doesn't mean that we choose the thoughts that come into our head. Creation means that wherever those thoughts come from, whether we're generating them ourselves or whether they're coming from the universe to us, or whoever is sending us these thoughts, or however they get there, once we own them, they are ours. Once we own them, we are creating them because we are getting a feeling from them in that moment. So that to me is what creation is. So do we go out of our way to feel attraction or chemistry from someone? Absolutely not. It just happens. And then we start applying our thinking to it.
Yeah.
And that's when we can get off very easily. When we start applying our thinking to it and trying to make meaning of it and trying to figure it out and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know if that's helpful, but.
Yeah, it is helpful. I mean, I guess there's a part of me that romantic part of me that, really wants to believe that there's an energetic dance, if you like, with somebody else.
Well, there may or may not be.
Yeah.
And attraction or chemistry may mean that and it may not mean that. But it's really what we do with it, both in our thoughts and subsequently in our feelings and in our actions, that will determine the not only what ends up happening, but the feeling level that we live in about it. That's what we create. We create the feeling level that we live in about it.
And so I guess that could be whether we feel that is something we really want in our life or not, as an example.
Yeah, or this is the person for me, this is what it means. And then if we don't get that, we get all bummed out.
Okay.
But we're the ones who made it up in our minds. This is the person for me, when it may or may not be true. Yeah. And then we compare where we are to that, and then we get bummed out if they don't meet each other. But we're the ones that created both things.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, there's one other thing I wanted to say about that. Oh yeah, you know how some people say a relationship is either meant to be or it isn't?
Mm-hmm.
Like I say that, okay? I say that all the time. Now, I don't know whether that's true or not. I don't know whether it's true that that relationships are meant to be or whether they're not meant to be. But the only thing I know is that my feeling, a relationship is meant to be or it isn't. If it doesn't work out, I'm still in a decent feeling.
Yeah.
Even if it's not true, you know, because it's true for me, and that's comforting to know it's either going to work out or it isn't. But you know, like you see people who get into great deal of jealousy or get totally distraught if a relationship doesn't work out, or you know, and if one has the thought, true or not, well, I guess it just wasn't meant to be. They're just going to be in a better feeling state about it, and therefore a higher level of consciousness about it.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Next subject.
All right, it's Dominic next.
Oh,
Dominic.
hey, Jack, how are you? Great to
Hey.
see you again.
Great to see you again.
Yeah, I just really, when you said about the creation of illusion and the essence and oneness, of course, I went back to the weekend that you did up here in Guelph, where that's where I first heard you talk about this. My question's about when you think about creation of illusion,
Mm-hmm.
is anything other than the word creation important in any of that?
Well, people, I think it's very helpful for people to understand what illusion is and why the illusions that we do create look and feel so real to us. Like that's what's important. People get caught up or bummed out or whatever, depressed, angry, worried, bothered, anxious, you know, you name it, because they're seeing reality. They're seeing reality. They don't know that it's illusion. Now, once people see this reality that I'm thinking, that I'm believing to be so real, can only be caused by my creation of it. Like it wouldn't exist otherwise. Then people become free from that illusion. But otherwise, we're stuck with it. As long as we're seeing reality, we are stuck with it. And nobody can talk anybody else out of the reality that they're seeing. So the idea becomes, how can we call into question what we're seeing as reality that's really an illusion that we've created?
Yeah.
So that to me, there's more to it than just the word, than just understanding creation. There's what it is, what it means, how does it get there, why does it look so important to us, what makes us not be able to drop it when we say to ourselves, and many three principles people are big on this. Yeah, I know it's my own thinking, but yet we're still caught. It means we're still seeing some reality. Even though we're saying, yeah, I know it's just an illusion, it's just my thinking, we're still seeing some reality about it. It's the only reason we're caught.
Yeah, when I hear it as creation of illusion, it seems to me then that there's a different creation I can do. And that's the reason I'm saying it's odd that we would say But what's going on is creation. That's it. So there is no illusion, reality, etc. From my perspective, there is only creation, that which I create, and that's all there is.
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
I cannot take any issue with that whatsoever.
Okay. That was why, because I thought, well, if I'm creating illusions, so then I should stop that, and I should try to perceive reality instead. But that's not an option.
That would be your thinking, Dominic, taking what that means and making it mean that to you. So therefore, you would get that as an experience. That's the three principles.
But yeah, the other part is that I know that that's not possible. It's sort of not possible to perceive a reality that is there. So I can only create it. And so that's why it's like, okay, so from essence and oneness, I could feel that part. And then the other part is creation. And that's the only existence, sort of.
I would say that's a very deep understanding. And you can express that to others because you see that for yourself. On the other hand, I happen to know from the training that we were in together that there are some things in life that you still see as reality. And so knowing that it's creation doesn't necessarily erase everything across the board. So there's something more there to be seen. And that's the same for all of us. You know, there's something more to be seen whenever we're caught.
Yeah.
And I do want to just be sure that there's nothing about creation of illusion that implies, therefore, we need to come up with new creation. New creation just happens. As soon as we get a new thought, we have new creation. There's no way to get around it.
Yeah.
And so new creation happens on its own. We don't have to go out of our way to create it. And sometimes when we do try to go out of our way to create it, like with positive thinking or something like that, we will have other thinking in the back of our minds that's saying, well, this isn't really true, you know? And so that's what ends up coming into our consciousness, not the positive thinking part. But yeah. I just want to be clear about that, because whenever we get into whenever anybody hears we need to try to come up with new thinking, that I would say is off base. That's not what the three principles mean.
That makes sense to me. As thinking changes, we don't do it, but thinking does change, and then I guess the illusion part is, and then I create another illusion.
Yeah.
And as thinking changes again, I create another illusion. And there was just a bit of a trap for me, saying, when will I cut that out and finally see reality? And there's just a trap in all of that.
Yeah, well, the answer to that is in the moments we happen to fall into the formless.
In which case I see nothing. In which case I am perceiving nothing, right? And in the moment of death, I might say, we probably go back to that. And
I've had a few moments where I have fallen back into formless energy. I've had a few moments like that where I just know that things are not as they seem. And it's hard to describe anything there. It's just a knowing. It's a knowing beyond what we can see. But it's just, as soon as you try to articulate it, you've had it, because nobody understands what you're talking about.
Right on. Yeah. It can't be articulated. And then just one other thing is when you said, right, about how the thoughts, we're not controlling the thoughts. So thoughts are around. But then you said, once we own those thoughts, they're ours.
Yeah.
Like in that moment. So just the question about owning those thoughts.
Meaning we get the feeling from them.
Oh, yeah. So, but then this idea of owning the thoughts, is there any volition in that?
Any volition in, what do you mean?
Like I pick it, like I lock onto it.
No, not to me.
So am I then, if there is no me picking it and owning the thought, am I then victim to something outside of me, which is thoughts floating around, and some of them hit me and some of them don't, but there's nothing I can do about that?
So I'm not really sure what your question is here.
So you said that thoughts happen, you don't choose them, you don't create them, which is in my experience true. Like I just thoughts.
Well, we don't make them up. We don't go out of our way to think up many of the thoughts that we think.
But then when we own those thoughts, they're ours. And my question is, in the owning of those thoughts, is there volition involved? Is there an intention?
Not to me.
So if I have a thought like maybe my wife doesn't love me, or maybe my kids think I'm a jerk, or something like that, is there a piece in there where I lock into it and then create a reality from it? Or does it just, are these thoughts?
If we have a thought like that, we're going to get a feeling from it automatically. Therefore, it's ours. That's what I mean by owning it. It's ours.
But I could be somewhere and get a thought of perpetrating some violent activity, and it doesn't bother me. It's like just a crazy thought. I mean, I don't actually think anything of it, right? So I just don't think anything of it. So
but that's the beautiful thing, Dominic, because if you had that thought, you get a certain feeling from that thought. And then it's only if you had another thought right on top of it, I'm going for it, or a thought like that, that it would get you into trouble. A lot of people have those thoughts.
And some of them go down there and pick them, and some of them don't. And that's my question of volition or free will or intention or any of that, right? Because I could pick the violent thought. I could just stay with it.
If you picked the violent thought, you would have to have another thought that picks it. See, it makes it too complicated to me. Simplicity. Any thought we have is going to give us a feeling. If we have another thought right on top of it, even a thought we don't know that we're having, it's going to give us a different feeling. If we get another thought, it's going to give us a different feeling. That's all that's happening all the time.
And I guess that's the thing. If I didn't pick the violent thought, I also have no choice about the next one, which says
right.
It's important. And I have no choice about the one after that that says you must act on it. And I have no choice about the one after that, which actually gets me into action.
We just are going to get different thoughts, and we're going to have different feelings from the thoughts. And if I have a thought, oh, I just had this violent thought, that's interesting. Then I'm going to get a different feeling from that next thought. That's all that's happening. So let's not belabor that anymore.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you.
Sue Turner, you're next. Are you able to unmute yourself or wave if you need me to?
Hi.
Hi, Sue.
Hi. My question is, I've just read Modelo for about God knows how many times I've read it, and it seems in that situation that there was habitual behaviour. So, even though I've read the book, I still can't work out how they use the principles to overcome that behaviour, that habitual behaviour.
So can you say more about specifically what your question is?
Yeah. I am a champion at habitual avoidance behaviour.
Avoidance.
Yeah.
Like, do you mind giving an example?
Yeah, I'm agoraphobic. So I'm
Agoraphobic, did you say?
agoraphobic.
Acrophobic?
Yeah, so I'm frightened to go out.
Yeah, agoraphobic. Okay. Yeah. You're
Sorry, it's
frightened to
my
go out.
accent.
Okay, so what's your question about that?
Like, I know that it's an habitual behaviour pattern caused from habitual thought, you know, but I can't seem to kind of overcome that.
Uh-huh.
You know,
Well, yeah.
I'm good in every other aspect. You know, I used to be terrified of being on my own and various other things. That don't bother me no more because I know it's just thought. This one seems a lot harder to crack.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, we're not going to be able to spend enough time together right here, right now, to be
Oh,
able
bless
to.
you.
But I will say that agoraphobia is just like anything else. It's like fear of something, and it doesn't matter what we're afraid of. When we see that fear as reality, we are going to be like frozen. So it's I'm guessing that it's so real to you that if you walk out the door, something bad is going to happen to you.
I start having panic attacks and.
Yeah, but why would you have a panic attack? I mean, what would be panic about?
Because
what?
I'm out of my safe. I've kind of created a safe zone. And so, oh, I'm okay if I'm here, but
Okay.
then I'm not if I'm here.
So you think you're not safe?
Yeah.
If you walk out the door,
yeah.
and that the only way you will be safe is if you're in your house.
In my safe zone, yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So for whatever reasons, you see yourself as different from other people who can walk out their door.
In the sense of I'm frightened and they're not.
Yeah, and so what would make them not frightened?
Knowing that I wouldn't have a panic attack.
You're frightened of something that they're not frightened by.
Yeah. Maybe they, they've never had panic attacks or being frightened, so frightened that you actually think you're gonna die.
Yeah, boy, that's like reality, right? I mean, you have a panic that you're going to die. And that's about as real as it gets.
Yeah.
Hard to escape that. I feel for you about that. I really do.
I've had it a long time now.
Yeah. But here's the thing, Sue. If there can't be any exceptions to the three principles, that fear of going outside, that fear of that feeling of panic that comes to you can only be caused by the fact that you are getting thinking that really looks and feels real and comes right through your senses. The consciousness sends it right through your senses, and it's going to feel like absolute truth.
And it does, and I know it's only my thoughts.
Well, you know that on a certain level, but you
Yeah.
don't really know it. Because if you really knew it,
Then I
I
wouldn't have
mean, to
it.
your bones, if you knew it to your bones, you would see that it can't really be truth.
So how do I get it? You know, I study the principles so much
Yeah.
and listen to all you wonderful people. Why am I not getting it?
Well, sometimes our thinking can be really powerful. You know, our thinking can be so powerful that it can block seeing new. And our head can be so filled up with it that we inadvertently don't allow ourselves to be able to hear wisdom speaking to us about what's really true. So we think there's something that's really true, but there can't be any exception to the three principles. But we're feeling it anyway. So there's something that we're missing here. You know, something we're missing. I don't want to leave you hanging.
Hey, don't worry, it's fine.
But I think that's as far as we can go with this right now.
Okay.
And so it's just a question of, I think the most helpful thing that you could do for yourself, like right now, is just to ask yourself, is it really true? Is it really true that I need to panic about something when I get out of my comfort zone?
No,
Is it
it's
really
not.
true? Yeah, but really.
Okay, yeah.
I'm not saying do it right at this moment, but just to have that as a something that you clue into every once in a while.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Sue. It was really brave of you to talk about it. That's like going outside, I promise you. We've got Kevin Mackey coming up next, who has a microphone issue. So if you can wave, Kevin, and Jack might be able to see you on one of his screens.
I see you, yes.
Brilliant. I'm going to read it out. I hope I get it right.
Okay.
It said, should the three principles, I mean how it is articulated and taught, naturally evolve, or should we always look to return to the simplicity of Sydney Banks' original vision?
That's such a beautiful, beautiful question. I love that question. As I said before, there's only one truth. Sid had a enlightenment experience that I can't relate to, where he saw that truth. He started to do his best to share it with the world. He thought, this could be helpful to humanity. I'm going to share it with the world. Out of the goodness of his heart. He wasn't making any money doing it. He just knew that he needed to share it. So what's truth that doesn't evolve, and what's articulating truth that always will evolve. I don't know if that made any sense. The three principles are as close as I know to how it really works. So the truth of how it really works. And then there's the articulation of what the three principles mean. That's all made up. Like the way the three principles world goes about its business is made up. They are using the three principles to make up, this is how you teach the three principles. This is what the three principles mean. This is what it is. It's all made up. Can that evolve? Absolutely. Absolutely. Can the truth of what Sydney Banks saw evolve? That's just truth. That's just the way it is. You know, we're getting glimpses of it. Like I've had little glimpses of it. But that's all. I haven't had an enlightenment experience. I'm not an enlightened person, but I've had glimpses that it's truth. That doesn't change. Articulation and understanding of what that means, that can change. That, and in fact, if you look back at the history of the three principles, that has always kept changing along the way. What the three principles is now is built on the understanding of people who have evolved along the way to this point. And that it's evolved along the way. I mean, George Pransky used to say all the time, sometimes people are going to look back at this and say, God, I can't believe how off base they were. You know? And then you get to the next point and you think you're onto something. And when you look back, it looks ancient. And then you evolve to that, and then that thing looks ancient. I mean, it's just a continual process of evolving. So the answer to your question is both.
That's a typed reply that says thank you from Kevin.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks, Kevin. The next question we've got lined up is Helen. Helen James, are you able to unmute yourself? Or do you need me to do it? All right, hold on. There you go.
Oh, there you are.
There you go.
There we go.
Nice.
Hello. Hello, Jack.
Hello, Helen.
How are you?
Good, thanks.
Really good to hear you and to see you. I'm a bit of a cheater because I don't have a question, I don't think. But just to say thank you, really. And maybe there is a question. Let's see. So you opened my eyes to deep listening and the art of deep listening. Before I met you, I came sort of thinking, how can I incorporate the three principles into what I do? Because I was really struggling. And I came away realizing that I should stop trying to incorporate the three principles into what I do and just listen. And then, so I did type in the question box earlier, is that sometimes it feels that people are looking for something that's right or true, but I don't think it's a waste of our energy, isn't it? Because we can't pre-predict what's going to happen with the next person we sit with and listen to, and
That's true.
you know, if we're in a help mode. So yeah, so it is just a thank you. I think just, you know, when I sit and do my work now, I don't feel that I have to go in prepared. Just being able to listen and see what comes up has been really amazing. But yeah, so just that I keep coming back to that focus, that it's yeah,
Well, I'm really glad you brought that up, Helen, because, you know, a lot of us are trying to understand the three principles more deeply for ourselves. And a lot of us are attempting to share what we see with the world somehow, whether it be through coaching or teaching or trainings or something like that. And what I have learned, mostly the hard way, is that deep listening is the key. And when people don't truly understand what deep listening is, we're going to be off base or not truly connected to what that person or group or whatever needs to see, or, you know, how we can help them.
yeah.
And in addition, deep listening to ourselves is how we can go into stillness and hear the wisdom of the ages speak to us.
Yeah, the deep listening to ourselves is really as important, isn't it? Because I think after we went through those few days, we came to I came in my mind is that, you know, all thought is ego, or ego, you know, all thought comes through an ego filter, almost. So that deep listening to ourselves and our responses to what we're hearing or what we're feeling or what we're perceiving from a connection, that we have to be the most you know, to be of service. We have to deep listen to ourselves equally so.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say that we have to, but it sure helps. And it's not that all thought comes from ego. It's that a great percentage of our thinking comes from ego.
Yeah, or our response to it is ego.
Yes.
Because it can't be anything else. Or it can't because it's us, isn't it?
Well, it's ego is very subtle and insidious. And there's a lot of times that we don't see it in operation. But when we get a hit from wisdom from out of the blue, it bypasses all that. And ego doesn't really stand a chance in the face of wisdom. But then it's so powerful that it will then try to jump in, even after we've had an amazing insight from wisdom. It will try to jump in and do something with it. And then we get off of our wisdom very quickly.
So I had an insight for myself recently in a different context completely, that I realized that for a lot of my life, I've been wasting energy trying to fit in. And I think that I came to the three principles, finding out how I can fit in. And I'd feel too uneasy to sort of like express myself or articulate my own understanding. And then I just thought, well, that's just as silly as trying to fit in. I'm never going to fit in. And yeah, nor should I try.
The question is, fit into what? You know?
Yeah. Yeah. So I think the understanding of the three principles is only ever going to be our own, and
That's true.
The usefulness of them, if that's the right, is just going to be determined by who we're with and what we're doing and what we're talking about.
The usefulness of them is going to be determined by the feeling level that we live in.
Thank you, Jack.
You're welcome, Helen.
Jack, we're on. We have 4 minutes till 11 my time, which I think is 4 minutes till the end. My question to you is: are you up for one more question, or do you want to end with some final thoughts? You're okay with one more question?
Yeah, I could do that. Boy, time flies when you're having fun.
I'm telling you.
No idea that the time went so fast.
I wish we had 5 more hours with you. Unfortunately, we don't. So we'll stick with one more, and then we'll ask you how we can connect with you and what you have going on. So let's go to Lynn for the final question.
Hi, Jack.
Hello.
I was supposed to meet you in Guelph when you were here, but I ended up not going to that event. But I am going to the conference in London next month or this month.
Great.
Hopefully, I'll get a chance to meet you then.
That'd be nice.
My question is, you said something earlier about knowing, like you've had some things happen in your life where you just had this certain knowing. And I think I know what you mean because I've had that too. And my question is, would you describe that knowing that you've had as an enlightened experience or not?
Not really. I mean, it's very tough to describe. I mean, one of those experiences I described, well, actually two of those experiences I described in my book, Seduced by Consciousness. One of them was when I was talking, or when Sid Banks was talking to me. Now, I could never, I mean, my head exploded. I could never describe what that really was that happened to me. But as I said in that book, it's just, I only knew one thing, and I knew it beyond a shadow of a doubt. I knew that he was talking truth. I had no doubt about that whatsoever. I knew that he was talking truth. And I knew that to my bones. There was no question about it at all.
So I wonder where that came from, because like
Beats me.
like because you could have easily just thought that this guy's nuts.
I could have.
You know.
Certainly a lot of people did. I don't know why. I heard what I heard. I don't know why I felt like I heard something beyond my intellect to the soul of my being. I have no idea why I heard that. You can't make it happen. People try to meditate for years and it doesn't happen. And then some people who aren't meditating, it happens to. I mean, you just, it baffles me. I have no idea. Some people just would say, well, I was ready to hear it. Well, you know, it's not that helpful.
Yeah.
And you know, and the other time was when I had my shattering experience, which I wrote about toward the end of my book. And then I knew, and I saw again what I saw with Sid, and I knew that formless energy that was really all that mattered. The formless energy holding all matter together was the only thing that really mattered. And you know, you would think that you could see something like that and you would be home free forever, you know? But then other thoughts creep in that look like reality.
Yeah.
And so, you know, you just get caught in it again. At least I do. But yet, in the back of my mind, there's always something in the back of my mind that is saying to me, Jack, you know how it really works. If you get caught up, yeah, I might get caught up now for a little while, but you know, Jack, really. So I'll get caught for a while, and then I'll eventually catch on. It takes me a while sometimes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Jack, we're out of time, and I just wanted to thank you and everybody that joined us with your wonderful questions.
May I say what's coming up for me?
That's what I was going to ask you, if there's any, how they can get a hold of you and what's coming up for you. Absolutely.
Yeah, well, the best way to get a hold of me is to email me, and you can either do that through my website, which is insideoutunderstanding.com, or you can email me directly at jack@healthrealize.com. And after the Innate Health Conference in the UK, I'm going to be doing a special thing for a group on community work with the, you know, using the 3 principles. Actually, let me just grab my calendar over if I can reach it.
That's on the Wednesday, isn't it? Wednesday the 16th.
Yes, that's a Wednesday in Battersea. And then after that, I am going to be doing something in Italy on the 25th. And after that, I am going to be doing something in Israel on the 3rd and 4th of June. And you can, if anybody's interested in any of those, you can get in touch with me and I will give you the information on it. And also, one thing I really wanted to point out was that at the end of October, just before the Viva conference in Spain, we're doing a training retreat on a combination of living the spirit of the 3 principles and impactful coaching with the 3 principles. And if you haven't been to the Mediterranean coast of Spain, it's a delight. It's a delight. It's a delightful place to have a retreat. You can ask Mick and Jan, who are on this call. Yeah.
And I'll post your website and your email, just because they might not have gotten it from here. So I'll post that as soon as I put the video up.
Okay.
In my group. Well, okay. Thank you again. I don't want to keep you too long. Thank you so much. If there's any other questions or insights, you guys are welcome to post them into the group once the video's up and continue the conversation, because I know there's so much more to explore. And Jack, thank you once again. Never ending. And this is one of my favorite conversations. Thank you. And we hope to see you soon. Thank you. And if everyone wants to say a big
Thank
goodbye
you, everyone.
To Jack.
Great to be with you all.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Thank you, Jack.